Hi, I'm Lindy Whitten. Welcome to the studio. Today I'm just going to do a quick demo on painting snow. It's a very small painting, but just to give you the idea of how you can go about painting snow in pastels. So I've just chosen this little photo. What I like about this is there's some shadow in the snow and some bright sunlight of the snow on top of the trees, which is a good technique, and the distant snow, the misty feeling you get about that. And what I'm going to do is also show you a technique for putting in snow as it's falling too, which is quite simple and quite effective. I'll just show you the boxes of pastels I've got out. I've got a mixed green, which I've made up myself because greens are just notoriously hard, and there's a lot of trees in here. I've got my very dark box. These are a Sennelier dark pastel set, and they're very good for really deep darks you need, which I'll need in some of the foliage. Then I've got a little unison light set, so they're an English pastel, and they're the light ones are absolutely fabulous for snow and clouds and that sort of thing. And then I've got a unison landscape set, so I'm just going to put in the major lines here, so that'll be the grass line, and then back here I've got some of the distant hills and the sky, and then up in here I'm going to have just a general idea of the shapes of the trees. There'll be some coming out there which I'll worry about later, and then big masses of trees around here. Okay, I'm going to start by just blocking in some of the trees with some dark colours. I'm actually going to put in some, I want it to be a little bit lively, so I'm just putting a little bit of reddy purples underneath the tree area there. It is a relatively hard pastel, and just some black backgrounds there. I'm going to actually put in some blues as well, because there's a good bluish green, so bluey greeny tinge there in the background. And I'll just pull down some random strokes there for the tree trunks that are all around. We've got a lot of gum trees on our property. Right, so I've got a bit of an idea of where I'm going there, and I've put in some colours. I'm just going to put in a little bit more colours there, a few different greens, maybe even put in a bit of these colours and some of my very dark purples, because it'll be nice to get the sense here of some deep shadows. Down there. Also, I'm just going to put in some more of those blues along there for the shadows and for the hills. I just take my isopropyl alcohol. This is the Diggers brand. Doesn't really matter what brand you use. Wash those down into the general shapes of the trees, making it a little bit feathery out there. So that's my dark trees, the more bluer background there. And then washing this side of the trees, just for a general idea of the trees. And then, I didn't do it before, but I'm going to do it now. I want to put in some, a little bit darker than that, because actually the shadows on the snow are quite dark. So I'm just going to put in some areas of shadow to guide me later on. And I'm also going to put in the sky there, just as a bit of a start. So, just I'm dipping back into my isopropyl, and I'll just wash that sky in a little bit. And then just the darker snow areas, just to remind me where I'm going to put those shadows. So already we've got a very good idea of where that painting is going. I'm going to lay in the sky, and the sky is pretty light. I'll start off with, and I'm just putting in a few little sky holes in that tree as well, which I'll come back to later on. So I'm just rubbing lightly over there, and then I'll use a few different blues so I get a bit of variation. Not going too much into the tree with that because it's hard to put your darks over your lights. They're easier to go the other way. And another blue up there. Just, it's a sort of a grey blue, and it gives a little bit of that sense of the grey brooding skies when snow's around. And then I've got the hills in the background too. A deeper blue than the sky, but not too deep there. And then there's going to be an even greenery sort of blue coming up as they come a bit forward. Try that one. Yeah, that's about right. And I'm making a little bit of a jabby edge along there because the gum trees are sort of showing up there. And I'll just do some jabs. You can see I'm just jabbing in there to give the illusion of some trees in the distance there. There are some more trees back here, but what I'm going to do is put in some of that green and then go over it again with the blue, knocking it back just a little bit, giving you some sense of variety in those hills back there. I've got a sharper edge on there, which I might get rid of later because of the... and back in the distance there's a little bit of sunlight even playing over some of those, so I'm just putting in some yellowy colours on the blues. And that's just where there's some patches of sunlight. So you have the clouds opening up and then you get a little bit of sunshine coming through. Just bluing off, greening off amongst there as well, just to get a better sense of the distance there. I'm going to put in some more of the other greens there. So I've got some yellower greens too where the sun might be hitting some of those trees, and then some deeper greens again. So I'm just jotting in little dabs of different greens there for the closer hill, making sure I've got some little bits sticking up for the tops of the trees. Some trees will be a bit taller than the others. Okay, so now I've got a bit of sense of distance coming up there, and I want to now put in some of these other background trees here, and they're going to be a bit darker still. So just probably putting those in, suggestion of the gum trees in the distance there. A little bit of darker shadow back there in that area. So I just pick up a darker green, and also I can pick up a darker purple to put in some of those shadows as well, like the purple I used in the underpainting. That'll just help to tie it together. So I'm just putting some shadowed areas in those. I haven't put any of the snow in yet because that is going to come later. I just want to get in the trees. I'm going to have again a bit of lighter area on some of the trees here where the sun's catching parts of the trees, and go back in with the deeper ones, the shadowed area part of it. So I've got some trees there going in the background. I'm just putting some of those in, and down here. And also the snow is coming through in some of those trees. So I've got these dark background ones there. But I also need to think about the fact that some of the snow is catching on this. I'm going to start putting in little bits of snow, and they will be in blues back here. So I don't want them too light because a lot of this background's in shadow. So I'm just putting in some suggestions of snow catching on the and sitting on the trees there. And what I do is just scrumble it over the top of the where the tree tops are there. So here I'm putting in some suggestions of snow. Not all of it's going to have snow because it wasn't a very heavy snowfall, but there you can see that there's some snow back there. And I'll even put in some deeper snow colours back here. Where that is, I can even go deeper and darker than that. Maybe that colour. And I'm going back into some of these with the deeper colours, because we want to remember that in the distance and in the shadow the snow is going to look blue. So in here I've got just some suggestions of the snow being quite blue, and I'm going to actually run that now over the foreground snow where I put those shadows before. So quite a dark blue going over there, and then I want to put in some of the other snow colours. So here I am going in with a lighter blue, but still not white. And there'll be little patches of white against the blue. And in amongst those blues and the lighter colours, I can start putting in some other colours. I can get some little bits of pink going in there as well, because there's various colours in your snow, depending on what's around reflecting into it and which way the light's coming. So in my whiter areas I'm putting some lovely pinks, just so we get a nice lot of variety, and I'll just keep layering those into the area that I want. And I might start putting in some more pressure on my pastel there, a little bit coming in behind there, and then I'll go back in with some sort of pinky purples, and in the shadows they can have a little bit of variation as well. Some of the softer, because all the shadows not quite the same, and I'll put in some more, layering some more blues in those shadows, just some different blues. Just so we get a nice bit of variety. And also the ground in my paddocks is not very even, so there are bumps and lumps in the ground, so that there are lots of shadows within the shadows and shadows within the light as well. So that gives me an idea of the snow. Now what I want to do is work on those trees, because that's the next element. You'll notice I haven't blended with my finger at all in this. I don't really want to do that. So I'm going to go back into the trees now and just put some general strokes with the side of the pastel, just coming over those purples I put in. So here I go. And I'll go back in and get the sky holes fixed shortly. So here I've got the general scope of the trees. Just at the edges I do little jabby marks like that. Just little jab, 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 which kind of simulate the individual leaves just on the edges. You don't want to do it everywhere. You just need the idea of the leaves. So I'll put some of those ideas in, and now we can see we've got the trees in there. What I want to do is add in some, at this point, add in some branches. So I'm just going to use this sort of scenery kind of colour to pop in some branches and some tree trunks. And I'm not being too particular where they go, I'm just putting in some suggestion of some trunks, and back here there's going to be a few trunks as well. You can see some coming down through. Okay, so there's some trunks going in like that. And I'm going to make sure that I get my shadows coming back from those trees like so. We want to make sure that I want to lighten up the side of my, even just like putting a little bit of colour back in, little spots of lighter colour on the gums there, just where the light's touching it. And I'm actually going to go back in and put some of those purples back in too. We want to have some really deep dark areas in there for contrast as well, especially as we get down to the base here where the sun's not quite reaching it. And this side of the tree is darker than the other, so I'm just going to put some of those little slodges in, the individual leaves in the really dark colours as well. This is quite a hard pastel, and it is quite hard then to go back over it, so I might choose something else for my deeps there. Oops, don't drop that. Put some, that's a bit easier. Depending on the softness of your pastel, they go on better over other layers, and so the softer your pastel, the easier it is to pop them in over another layer. So this one's quite soft and very easy to get in. Start off with some blues for some shadowed areas, and it's just sort of laying on the top of the leaves there. So where it's very dark here, I'm putting in the blues. Just running it over the top of the rounded areas. There will be some areas in that snow that are more in the sunshine, not like on those greener ones, so they'll get a lighter colour for the snow. And similarly over here, a lighter colour on the areas that are more in the sunshine, darker colour on the areas that are in the more in the shadow. So now I've got some snow on the trees. I'm not going to do too much more with the ground. I'm actually going to put in a fairly white, just in a couple of patches there, and just a few on the tree there, not too many, just a couple of lighter ones coming in from about here. I'll just draw a few branches. And now I need to put the snow on top of those. So what I need for this is a very sharp pastel. I'm going to start with sort of just lay it along the top. I can always go back in afterwards and reinstate some of those branches. So there I go. What I'm going to do after this is go back in with the bluer colour, because some of them are in shadow, so something's going to get a little shadowy bits of snow, just like so, and that will help to give it sort of form. So we've got the painting now with the snow here, snow on the trees, the distant background and some snow on those branches. What we want to do is add some falling snow. So I've just got in my hand here a selection of pastels from deeper blues right through the palest blue and a white. And what we're going to do is use this little sieve that sits in a little dish like so. And you can sieve little bits of dust through it. I'm going to use it quite high above my painting, and I'm just going to start with the darker blue and give it a little light scrape against the side while I move it around, just to get some dust falling on there. I don't want too much, and holding it up helps to. So I've got a little light smattering of the snow on. Now I'm going to take the next pastel and rub that lightly while moving it around over the surface. In the distance it's quite thick. And then the lighter one still. And then I'm going to bring it a little bit closer as I use the lighter one. And then finally the white one, and that's going to go quite close because I want some bigger, lighter ones. And I don't care if there's some big blobby bits on this. I don't want it all too much in the one spot. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to fix it so that it will stay there. But before I do that, I'm just having a look at it, and some bits have got a little bit too much on, so I'm giving it a little bit of a... I've taken too much off now. So I'll just go back in again. So you can just blow a little bit off and try again. If I don't have the little sieve, I'm just going to use my craft knife and just do a couple of little scrapings, and it works just as effectively. And in fact you get some bigger slodges. So usually when I come, slodges, that's good word. Usually when I want to come and see the thicker bits of the bigger flakes as it gets closer to me, I'll use the knife to do that. And just let them pop down there. A few more in the background. Just a couple of different colours, just like in the snow. As it catches the light, some of it will be in the shade as it falls, some will be in the bright. I just want to give a couple of... Now I just want to fix that in there. I'm not going to use a fixative to do that. A roll of greaseproof paper, tearing a bit off, and then I will just lay it on top of there and just put some firm pressure on with my hands. Give it a bit of a gentle push into the paper. And then when I've finished with that, now I've got this, I'm just going to take it and give it a little bang to drop any bits off. There we have it. You can see the falling snow, the snow on the trees, the shadows in the snow, and that's just a simple way to do a snowy field scene with some falling snow. So thanks for joining me again in the studio today. See you next time when we do something new. Bye for now.